Millions once saw him as unstoppable, a man built like a machine, a symbol of strength, power, success. But today, at 78 years old, the life of Arnold Schwarzenegger feels very different from the image the world remembers. Behind the legendary movies, behind the muscles, behind the fame that made him one of the most recognizable men alive, there is an older man now facing something no amount of power could ever defeat. Time. And perhaps for the first time in his life, Arnold can no longer outrun it. Long before Hollywood, long before the money, the fame, and the standing ovations, Arnold was just a lonely boy growing up in a small village in Austria. A place filled with silence, discipline, and pressure. His childhood was far from glamorous. His father, Gustav Schwarzenegger, was known as strict, cold, and emotionally distant. Arnold later admitted that affection was rare in their home. Mistakes were punished. Weakness was unacceptable. And for a young Arnold, it created a hunger deep inside him. A hunger to escape, to become somebody bigger than the life he was born into. While other children played outside, Arnold became obsessed with bodybuilding magazines. He stared at photos of muscular champions like they were superheroes from another universe. To him, muscles were not just about strength. They represented freedom, control, respect, and maybe even love. Every morning before sunrise, Arnold trained relentlessly. Pain became normal. Exhaustion became routine. But behind that determination was a frightened young man terrified of staying ordinary forever. Then came the dream that changed everything. America. The land Arnold believed held the future he desperately wanted. When he arrived in the United States in the late 1960s, he barely spoke English. He had little money, no safety net, no guarantees, just ambition, and an almost impossible belief in himself. Most people would have failed, but Arnold treated life like a competition he refused to lose. Soon, the bodybuilding world began to notice him. Then came victory after victory. Mr. Universe, Mr. Olympia. Again, and again, and again. The world stared in disbelief as the young Austrian transformed himself into the most famous bodybuilder on earth. But even at the peak of his success, there were signs of loneliness hiding beneath the trophies. Arnold trained constantly, worked constantly, pushed himself constantly, because slowing down meant thinking. And thinking often brought him back to the emptiness he had spent his whole life trying to escape. Then Hollywood arrived. At first, nobody believed a man with his accent and massive physique could become a movie star. Critics laughed at him. Some executives even suggested changing his name because they thought Schwarzenegger sounded impossible for audiences to pronounce. But Arnold didn't care. He had spent his entire life proving people wrong. And then, everything changed. The Terminator turned him into a global phenomenon. "I'll be back." 4 simple words. And suddenly Arnold Schwarzenegger became immortal in pop culture. Soon came blockbuster after blockbuster. Predator, Total Recall, True Lies. The world saw him as invincible. The ultimate action hero. A man who could defeat aliens, robots, armies, and impossible odds without fear. But fame has a strange way of isolating people. The bigger Arnold became, the less normal life felt. Everywhere he went, crowds followed. Every interview became performance. Every appearance became expectation. People no longer saw Arnold the human being. They saw a symbol, a machine, a larger-than-life figure who was never supposed to grow tired, never supposed to age, never supposed to break. And maybe that became his prison. Because while millions admired him, very few truly knew him. Behind the cameras and applause was a man constantly chasing the next achievement. Another movie. Another victory. Another goal. As if standing still for even one moment would force him to confront something painful inside himself. Then came politics. Business. Global fame beyond entertainment. Arnold became more than a celebrity. He became an icon. But icons pay a price. The pressure never stopped. And as the years passed, the body that once looked indestructible slowly began to change. The face audiences remembered from the 1980s began aging. The energy became harder to maintain. The spotlight became heavier. And perhaps the saddest part of all, the world that once worshipped his strength slowly started reminding him that even legends grow old. But the strongest man in Hollywood was hiding pain nobody could see. By the early 2000s, Arnold Schwarzenegger had already conquered nearly everything imaginable. Bodybuilding, Hollywood, global fame. For most people, that would have been enough. But Arnold was never satisfied with standing still. He wanted something even bigger: politics. And in 2003, the world watched in shock as the action hero known for fighting robots and terrorists became the governor of California. To millions, it felt unreal. The man from the Terminator was now leading one of the most powerful states in America. Crowds cheered. Cameras flashed. Supporters called it inspirational. But behind the scenes, the pressure was crushing. Politics was nothing like Hollywood. In movies, Arnold could defeat enemies in 2 hours. In real life, every decision created backlash. Every speech faced criticism. Every mistake became national news. For the first time in decades, Arnold could no longer control how the world saw him. Some admired him. Others mocked him relentlessly. And slowly, the image of the unstoppable action hero began to crack. At the same time, his body was also beginning to betray him. For years, Arnold had pushed himself beyond human limits. Extreme bodybuilding, intense training, movie stunts, stress, long work schedules. The same body that once made him famous was now carrying decades of damage. Then came the terrifying health scares. Over the years, Arnold underwent multiple heart procedures connected to a congenital heart condition he had lived with since birth. Each surgery reminded him of something painful. Even the strongest body eventually weakens. For a man whose entire identity was built around physical power, that reality was devastating. Imagine spending your whole life becoming a symbol of strength, only to suddenly face hospital rooms, surgeries, recovery, and aging. The muscles remained impressive, but time was slowly winning, and Arnold knew it. Friends began noticing changes. The once unstoppable energy seemed quieter, more reflective, more tired. The man who used to dominate every room now occasionally looked like someone carrying invisible weight on his shoulders. But nothing hurt his public image more than the scandal that changed everything. For years, Arnold's marriage to Maria Shriver had looked almost perfect from the outside. Hollywood royalty, political influence, fame, success, a beautiful family. It looked untouchable. Then the truth exploded into public view. Arnold admitted he had fathered a child with a household employee years earlier. The revelation shocked the world. Suddenly, the powerful image he had carefully built over decades collapsed overnight. Fans felt betrayed. The media became ruthless. Headlines spread everywhere. But behind the public scandal was something even more painful. A family breaking apart. Maria Shriver separated from him. Relationships with loved ones became strained. Trust was shattered. And for perhaps the first time in his entire life, Arnold could not simply train harder or work harder to fix the damage. Some wounds do not disappear with discipline. The scandal followed him everywhere. Interviews became uncomfortable. Public opinion changed. The same world that once celebrated him now questioned him constantly. And underneath it all, there appeared to be genuine regret. Arnold later admitted the pain he caused his family haunted him deeply. Because no amount of fame can silence guilt. No blockbuster movie can erase disappointment in your children's eyes. No trophy can repair broken trust overnight. For decades, Arnold had spent his life climbing upward. Bigger success, bigger fame, bigger power. But now, he was facing something he had avoided for years. Consequences. And aging made everything feel even heavier. There is something heartbreaking about watching someone once seen as larger than life slowly become human in the eyes of the public. The action hero who once carried massive weapons across movie screens now moved more carefully, more slowly. Wrinkles replaced the youthful face audiences remembered from the 1980s. The world that once screamed his name with excitement now often spoke about him with nostalgia, as if he belonged to another era. And perhaps that hurts more than people realize. Because Arnold built his identity on momentum, on always moving forward, always winning. But aging forces every person to confront stillness eventually. For the first time in his life, Arnold could no longer outrun time. The muscles, the fame, the power, none of it could fully protect him anymore. Yet despite everything, he kept trying to smile publicly, kept motivating fans online, kept exercising, kept appearing strong. But sometimes, when cameras catch him alone, there is a quiet sadness in his expression. A man reflecting on victories that came with enormous personal cost. A legend realizing that fame does not stop loneliness. And what Arnold's life looks like today is even more heartbreaking than anyone imagined. Today, at 78 years old, Arnold Schwarzenegger wakes up in a world very different from the one he once ruled. There are no screaming movie sets at dawn, no massive explosions, no roaring crowds chanting his name outside premieres every night. The pace is quieter now, slower, and for a man who spent his entire life moving faster than everyone around him, silence can feel overwhelming. There was a time when Arnold's body looked almost superhuman. Millions stared at him in disbelief. The muscles, the confidence, the unstoppable energy. He represented invincibility. But age changes everyone eventually, even legends. Today, Arnold still trains regularly. He still rides his bike through the streets of Los Angeles, still works out, still pushes himself to stay disciplined. But the workouts are different now, more careful, more controlled. The body that once lifted impossible weights now carries decades of wear, surgeries, injuries, and pain. And perhaps the saddest part, Arnold knows it better than anyone. Sometimes fans see him in public and feel shocked. Not because he looks weak, but because he finally looks human. Older, slower, fragile in ways the world never imagined during his glory years. The man once called the Austrian oak now moves with the quiet caution of someone fully aware of time passing. And maybe that realization hurts more than physical pain ever could. Because Arnold spent his entire life fighting limits. Now he faces the one battle nobody wins: aging. Still, he refuses to completely surrender to it. Every morning, Arnold follows routines with almost military discipline. Coffee, exercise, meetings, reading, time outdoors. The structure gives him purpose. Without it, perhaps the silence would become too loud. Over the years, Arnold has also developed an unexpected love for animals. Fans often see him spending time with his pets, especially his miniature donkey and other farm animals. And strangely, those moments reveal a softer side of Arnold the world rarely saw during his action star years. No explosions, no tough guy performances, just an older man feeding animals quietly at home, smiling gently, almost at peace. But even peaceful moments cannot completely erase regret. As people grow older, memories become heavier. And Arnold has many memories. Some beautiful, some painful. The success story is undeniable. A poor boy from Austria became one of the most famous human beings on earth. That alone sounds impossible. But fame always hides private costs. And Arnold seems more aware of those costs now than ever before. In interviews today, there is often a reflective sadness in his voice. He talks more openly about mistakes, about family, about pain, especially the collapse of his marriage. Because no matter how many achievements a person collects, personal regret follows them quietly through life. You can hear it sometimes in the way Arnold speaks about his children, about trying to repair relationships, about learning from failure. And perhaps that is one of the hardest truths of aging. When you are young, life feels endless. You believe there will always be more time to fix things later. Then suddenly, later arrives, and you realize some moments can never fully be recovered. For Arnold, that realization seems deeply emotional. The world still celebrates him as a hero. Fans still approach him everywhere he goes. Young people still watch the Terminator and see an unstoppable machine from another era. But Arnold himself knows the truth. Behind the iconic image is an elderly man trying to make peace with time, trying to stay positive while watching his generation slowly disappear. Many of the stars who dominated Hollywood beside him are now gone. Others have faded from public life completely, and that creates a strange loneliness few people talk about, because when you survive long enough, you eventually become a living memory of another world. Sometimes Arnold posts motivational messages online. He encourages people to exercise, to stay disciplined, to avoid negativity, and millions still listen to him. But perhaps part of that motivation is directed toward himself too, because discipline gave Arnold meaning his entire life. Without goals, without movement, without routine, who is he? That question seems to follow many aging celebrities, especially someone whose identity was built on strength. The contrast feels heartbreaking. In the 1980s and 1990s, Arnold appeared untouchable, the biggest action star alive. Now people sometimes speak about him with sympathy instead of fear or excitement. Not because they stopped loving him, but because seeing powerful icons grow old reminds people of their own mortality too. It forces everyone to confront an uncomfortable truth. Nobody stays young forever. Not movie stars. Not champions. Not legends. And perhaps Arnold understands that better now than ever before. There are moments today where photographers capture him sitting quietly alone. No movie costume. No cameras rolling. Just an older man lost in thought. And those images feel strangely emotional. Because for decades, the world only saw Arnold as larger than life. Now they see the vulnerability underneath, the humanity, the exhaustion that sometimes hides behind the smile. Yet despite everything, Arnold keeps going. That may be the most inspiring part of his story. Even after scandals, health problems, aging, regret, and loneliness, he still wakes up every day trying to move forward, trying to remain useful, trying to remain hopeful. And maybe that is the real version of strength. Not muscles, not fame, not power, but endurance. The ability to continue even when life no longer feels glamorous. As the years pass, Arnold's legacy is becoming something deeper than bodybuilding or movies. He is becoming a reminder that success cannot stop aging, that fame cannot erase regret, that even the strongest people carry invisible pain, but also a reminder that people can keep fighting anyway. In the end, the world will always remember Arnold Schwarzenegger as a giant, the Terminator, the action hero, the bodybuilding legend. But perhaps his greatest battle was never against machines, enemies, or impossible odds. Perhaps it was against time itself. And like every human being who has ever lived, even Arnold Schwarzenegger could not defeat it forever. Because in the end, even legends grow old. And sometimes, the saddest part of greatness is watching the world slowly realize that its heroes were human all along.